So I'm actually very excited to be here today and to talk on a topic which I very close to my heart, and that is resourceful design. Just going to get this one. I think my background is both coming from fashion. I have been working in product design, have been working in material innovation, both in Nokia, Microsoft, and H&M fashion design. And I think today, as a designer overall, I really want to talk about that because I think that we have, even more than any time, the great responsibility really to have a huge impact to what we could do for the future and the way we will be able to impact where we work and the creative way of thinking. So when we think, what do we consider during our design processes? Most of the time, as designer, we are asked to make a product brief, or they want us to think about something when we create a product. And they want us to make products that are desirable, fun, enjoyable, maybe colorful, maybe for something specific brand topic, or it could be consumer focused. And today also you start to hear more and more about, could you do something more sustainable? And of course, there's always the talk about cost and cost saving and so on. I think we don't spend a lot of time thinking about resourcefulness. If we look at the master of design, the nature, we have a lot to learn, which is quite amazing. Nature has taken so much time to make refinement. I mean, millions of years that they have created and really thought through what is here today wouldn't be if it haven't gone through that refinement. So in nature, design is cheap, material expensive. Nature is generously resourceful. We design and economically resourceful with materials. In nature, there is no unusable waste. Everything is usable and resourceful. And really think about that. That is a quite amazing thought when you think that you're going to start to design something. So let's have a look. What do we mean? One of the areas in nature, everything is nature and contains energy that stay in one form until it goes through a transformation into another form of energy. So we could clearly see here, if you look at the leaf, photosynthesis, and that goes into carbohydrates, and that goes into food and material and also what we human and animals consume, which leads to excrement and compost and as well, unfortunately, CO2. And that leads to, again, soil and plant food, and with the source of the sun, which is the most amazing energy, actually, that doesn't need anything back, goes back to the photosynthesis again. So everything goes around, nothing is really wasted. So this is how it looks today, and I think we are quite aware of this, all of us, that we produce products that are here today and basically gone tomorrow. What we all learn with that is, for example, with plastic, it's not gone tomorrow. It's actually take very long time to get rid of. And fashion that is made to be fashionable only for a season is filling our landfills. And just an example, I think if you think about, I live in UK, and 300,000 tons of fashion waste goes into the landfill. And actually another interesting thing is that we could also find product that is completely in use, I mean, it could be used still, like microwaves, just an example, that you find in landfills as well. And why are they there? They don't work? No, it's just because they didn't look right, you know, they wasn't fashionable anymore. I have a microwave that is 20 years old, it's still working, but you know, it doesn't look pretty. So this is a challenge when we think where we are going with design. So, for example, we are thinking of having products that are going to be upgradable. And I think you probably have had products that need to be upgradable. And that's why you can't use them anymore, so you have to throw them away. It's nothing wrong with the material, it's just that they couldn't be upgradable anymore. And when we think about that, when it comes to, you know, the IoT, I work a lot with future products and smart products overall. I mean, how much more waste would that create if they are not possible to upgrade and renewed in any way? So how can we as design be more resourceful in the design process itself? So we've been thinking a little bit in OMUUS. I mean, we have a lot of experience actually, many years, and how we are thinking through, can we make up some kind of toolbox that could be really helpful just to think through. And we looked at design for material-led, smart customization, design with modularity, and products that can be hacked or transformed. So let's have a look at some of those ideas, quite practical. So design for material-led. So when designing, I think it's really important more than ever to really understand the material and manufacturing parameters. Material will then drive color and form creation. And I think if we don't get the material right, the material systems, and really understand how are we using material in the absolutely best way, depends on the form that we're going to make. So we don't choose material that's really, really difficult to form, or it's very difficult to even use certain color in that material. But if we not think that through in the beginning, we will end up in production where you actually have a lot of waste because it was very difficult to achieve what you were aiming for on the product. So enabling this kind of quality is important, so no waste in production, and you could receive high margin. So it really starts from the beginning of when you start to produce. And this means productization, to have a better understanding of the whole way through. It's the same when you start with the material. What is the life cycle of the material, for example? And if we start with the form first, for example, and many times I have worked with products where you have created a beautiful form and have no idea what that will do, and then the coloring and the material come much later, and you just think that, oh, let's bother about that. I don't need to bother about that, I just do something fancy. And I think that is something we really could change, because when we know the process better, when we work together with different disciplines, we are really able to understand what is the best way, what is the best material and so on before we start with that other process. And also it's important to understand moving forward, for example, hybrid manufacturing, some people have maybe heard about that already, require integrated view of all possible manufacturing options, materials and parts in the start of the process, not in the end. So that's why it's even more important to get this knowledge early on. So I'm just going to show some quick example where we have had to think through these processes quite early on. So Customizable, accessory for luxury markets, was just one project we worked on, and Aura was the name, and brand innovative technology launch promotion campaign to create a functional and emotional lifestyle-driven accessory. So this was something that just was an accessory around the product that they have. But we were thinking through, how would we be able to create most possibility to have this customizable. So we created this beautiful ring that you actually could use with other accessories on you as well. And you could open it and hang all kind of things. Not only this product, if you use it later on in life, but others as well. And then we create a cover, a back cover, that was made through, could be done in 3D printing. And because it was one part in plastic, or you could do bioplastic as well, you could actually recycle it. So it wasn't combined too much different materials together. And then the front cover was made in leather, or you could have other sorts of bio-leathers or cork. So that could, again, easily be disassembled. So this was just the thinking process behind something that really could change a lot, because fashion, the luxury side, they want to change a lot, but how do you design in that change possibility from the beginning? So another example we worked on is, say, hackable payment solution for market needs. Hackable, when you talk about payment, sounds a little bit dangerous, but we actually thought about why you don't think about those things from the beginning and make it possible for people kind of design a product as a vessel, and that vessel could then be transformed into all kind of good use cases. So we actually did a payment study for 7 markets. So what we find was that identify the need for consumer solutions was very different in different countries. So, for example, in India, retailers, they would like to exchange money, so they could use this device in the process of that. And then in Middle East, can sell movie or metro tickets. So they wanted a device to do that for them. So this type of things are actually possible when you could use open source, for example. And it's a completely new way of thinking. Are we designing vessels for things that actually make it possible to be changed or hacked already, not in a bad way, but in a good way? So this other example, modular design, is familiar to everybody. I think you've probably seen it in the airports, happy or not, that you respond what you think. And these kind of devices are used in many different places. So it really needs to be changeable, so it fits in if you would have it in a luxury hotel or in the airport or wherever you have it. So we had to think about how do we create something that have longevity in the market and adaptability to different client needs. So they could actually get the basic, but then they also could be able to upgrade it. So it's been made modular to create technology upgrades and to be easy to be customized by normal people with standard tools. Sometimes we make something so complicated you couldn't just not do anything to the product. I think we have a lot of problem with that. Even if our dishwasher or whatever go broken, we can't even fix it anymore because it's made so in one piece. So if we do this kind of follow this kind of principle, the product have a longevity in the market, and if they want to have something new, they could just buy smaller pieces instead of change the whole thing and throw it away. So that's the one thing I'm thinking when you design. So we're going to have a look through a little, another concept that we did, which actually use a lot of these principles together. And it's very exciting, actually, the outcome, we think. This product was launched beginning of this year, actually. So, inspired by the nature's very smart, super light construction, the brief from the totally new light mobile vehicle was to make it totally looking different from any bicycle or any car or anything, and to create lightweight constructions. Because the light is very important in this vehicle. The future further is traveling, and the light it is, that less energy it uses. So we really had to think about what actually have a light construction and still have a very strong structure. So we looked at the patterns in nature, the structures in nature again for inspiration. So Voronoi, where the minimum amount of material are distributed to cover the maximum possible surface. That's something really interesting in that. And how could we build on that? How could we build a modular system that allows the platform to grow while keeping its original DNA? And we looked at many different things. You could see a city plan, you could see the same thing appears in a pattern on a giraffe, or these kind of patterns that exist in nature. And as I said before, have been developing for millions of years. From that, the design was inspired by this kind of biomimicry they call today. And it's a lot in biodesign now that we turn to, and we start to see how different design organizations start to work closer and closer with biodesign as well. So the Voronoi pattern, that is familiar from the nature. The dragonfly, for example, wings, was chosen for the design theme. So the Voronoi means a minimum amount of the material distributed, as I said before, and this was very useful when you want to use as little material as possible. We also looked at different ways to create from a material-led design point of view. And we looked at new materials. When you think about cars and use lights in cars, you would think about plastic or metal, or maybe also carbon fiber. But the material is still not so light and flexible. So we were interested to look into textile and see how could you work with textile. Textile could be very easy to change, and also it's very interesting to be able to use woven optical threads and have the light in that way, and also achieve very good lighting in a completely different way that will fit this device much better. So we looked at many different solutions on how we would use textile. And then natural fiber composites, also bringing the lightness, but also bringing different possibility for sustainability thoughts as well. So these was things we were considering doing this product. And it's of course, when you create something new like this that people may not have seen before, it's very important it fits in still. So it was important that we could create it in a way that it will fit in the normal urban life. And it was very also important that it can fit in, in the nature. So people get vision of where this vehicle could be used. So the scooter was launched this year, as I said, as a holistic brand experience. And I think we have to think about a lot of different touch points and be able to build the device, the product, so that you could actually add on. You could use it for different consumer cases, for different platforms. And it would just be modular and very easy to change. And you have the basic product there, so you don't have to change so many things and throw away. You could actually easily customize it. And the product platform offers this kind of maximized variability for advertising and transformation. And this is an exciting product, of course, because it's completely new to the market and have this zero emission as well. That also was important to communicate with the whole story. So this is just a little bit different way of thinking. I think when we work in design, always try to solve a problem, sometimes the thinking process is really important. And where do we get inspiration to think differently? For us, I think we find a lot just to look back into nature and see how have they done, how is things made, and how could we utilize that. And I do believe that design itself have an incredibly possibility to impact more than we could ever imagine. And just to summarize that all is that learn from nature, as I said, the resourcefulness, and the material-driven, how we are really considering material and learn. I think material also is one of the most exciting areas right now, because material can be programmed now and could be written down to the DNA, because that's how in such a small micro world we can see the material. So it's so much interesting things that happen there, and I think as designer we need to be on top of that. On the same side, there are negative things and things that we need to avoid, but we need to really get in there and learn more to be able to choose the right thing moving forward. And I think smart customization is really to understand how could we do customization in a way that provide, of course, flexibility for people's choice, but do it smart, so it doesn't mean that you have to throw away everything. And modular design is really important to think about when we considering how the future will be. All of the smart products coming in, all of the things that need to have smaller changes, how can we design to that successfully? And hackable products. So there are many out there doing hacking already, so why shouldn't we think that way and really consider how could we do that the best way? So that's my thoughts on the topic. And yeah.
Thank you so much. It's actually quite blood-stopping. I don't know if that's the right saying, like shocking. What you said in the beginning of your presentation about waste being really a man-made or human construction. Mm-hmm. And when you add a time frame to it and think of how fast all of that has taken place, that construction, it is quite shocking. But at the same time, if we've been able to create it so fast, I suppose we are able to also deconstruct it.
Yes.
I suppose so. A great presentation, and you emphasized the importance of learning from nature, and it actually reminded me of a previous, I think it was a previous design forum talk where there was Dr. Arndt Bechstein who talked about biomimicry as well. Do any of you remember Arndt's talk? Yeah. So I think that's a very interesting opportunity for, it's not only about product design, it's also about other systems within systems thinking, like how we can learn from nature. And I'd like to ask fast from the audience, there are a lot of designers, how familiar is this topic now among, like if you look at design education, is that something that it's already part of curriculum, this biomimicry or biodesign. Raise your hands if you are familiar with it. Can't see hands.
Oh.
Quite many hands. Yeah, sure. So I think this is one thing. And then from you, I would like to ask, like, when you work a lot with companies and make proposals on different designs, and I'm sure you use this as a motivation that you've been learning from nature and nature's resourcefulness. How is it welcomed, this idea? How do companies perceive it?
I think that we always need to understand that we're talking in a language that they understand. So for us is to gather this information, this knowledge, to strengthen us as problem solvers. But then when we wanted to apply it to a company, it needs to be told in a story that they understand. So I think it's a little bit same with sustainable. I mean, here in Europe and people are very aware, but we work a lot with China and other countries, and they're not. So they can't understand why is that important. So then you have to, again, tell the story in ways using, for example, that is what people want, or you have to make it attractive.
Then on the other hand, if you look at Asian countries who are quite used to sort of using natural resources for healing, for example. I think we start to be more remote. So practically, I don't know how many of you experience you're urban, but I at least think that I'm not as attached to nature for sure than my parents or the generation before them, who actually either got their living from agriculture or otherwise knew the sort of elements of nature, the ecosystem much better. How do you think we can make sure that designers gain this natural sort of relationship with nature, which is prerequisite for actually being able to then design or use nature as
I think we see a lot of positive sign now that the whole area of biodesign is very much more linked into design. And you start to see more courses even that in design education is very newly started that have the topic of biodesign and product making and the overall understanding of systems. So in the same way, I think that we before were able to have other partnership. Now that area is important. But I think overall for designers, it's a lot to take in today. Our role have changed massively. I mean, we need to consider also cognitive science, and we need to understand the whole digital world. And
yeah, exactly.
But exciting times.
Any questions from the audience?
Matti Mannonen from Technology Industries of Finland. Thank you for the excellent presentation. The thing I was not able to participate the earlier part when you were talking about circular economy more, but in your toolkit you don't explicitly say that the circularity or the like reusability would be a cornerstone of the design, but I understand that should be it anyways.
I think because we are in the very early phase of this, and as I was saying, we work with clients in China, we work on clients around the world that not always have the same starting point. I think as a designer you need to be super creative and have that as a passion yourself, and then think about how it could be implemented in different ways, still be able to make some change. So I hope we will, as you said, have that as a cornerstone, but it's a lot of work to go there, and we cannot wait. We still have to start to think, how can we think smarter?
Any other questions? I think it is quite clear from your presentation that we are really moving from people-centric to life-centric design. Thank you so much, Grace. Thank you.